All right, so your next project is making a flare bowler plate. And remember, flares at the top edge is going to go out. You generally see that more on a plate, but you see it on bowls as well. And since we can't do this on the wheels, I thought a good method for this would be doing the drape bowl. So you had done them before in ceramic say. So same thing is you're going to need to look around the house and try to find things you can use. You can use real bowls in that. It's not going to hurt it. Remember, we're covering it with plastic. So find a shape that you like. Doesn't have to be round. It can be rectangular. Okay, I got a pie plate here. If you had plastic plates or foam ones, those would probably even work to go right over them. And if you use a plastic or foam, with those you may not even need the bag. I would check to see if it feels that the clay is going to stick a little bit. Couple things, remember, you got to be careful of is having edges that stick out. So they, at the very bottom, it won't make a big difference, but some have them a little higher up. And with those, you might need to think of something else, because if it goes over it, you may not get it off of it, okay? This one, for instance, has this big kind of deep rivet. And just like we did in A, is don't forget you can take extra clay and fill that space in to level it out. So anything that you have that's maybe a big divot, a tall foot, just kind of add clay, kind of push it down in, smooth it out, and just kind of keep continuing with that, okay? And then don't forget, I'm gonna use, so we got the clay under it, right? Cover that in with the small piece of plastic, okay? And then covering the whole thing with the bag, okay? Before you drape clay over it. The reason being, remember that if you put this bag directly on that wet clay, it's going to stick, making it very difficult to come off. That little extra protection layer of that piece of plastic is going to allow it to come off a lot easier, okay? So you want to do that. All right, so however you're rolling out your clay, if it's sticking a lot, remember you can do it on an old towel or cloth. I've been using my glass cleaner rolling pin. And don't forget, you always want to go center out when you're rolling. Pick it up, turn it, and that's going to create a more even piece of clay. Also, you know, if you got some sticks that are about the same, remember do that. But this is a bigger piece, so it's not going to fit with my small rolling pin of glass cleaner. All right, so I'm going to go with my pie tin because I think that'll give you a nice space to drape over. If you have any holes, try to get them tucked under. Oh, I have a big one. So it is not going to stick, okay? Now, just like ceramic, say if you wanted to, you could use cutouts and do that and drape it over. The main thing here is that you just have to be careful that we want a flare top. And that is something we haven't done before, okay? So you've got to think about that. So if you can see kind of how it is right now, I am going to kind of smooth this down. And this time though, so all this extra clay that's going to be here. And remember, you got to be careful of rings in that because they love to mark up your clay. So just kind of gently go around pushing that in. We don't want to get that too thin where that's going to be a point of collapsing. All right. And then, of course, you can, if you've got bumpy spots, get that rib, okay? And you can smooth out spots. Go around. If you've got divots, you know, fill them in, okay? Now you can decide how you want to cut this. It doesn't have to be a complete circle. You could wave it. You could do more straight edge. That's going to be completely up to you. You might want to find something that can make a mark going around. That's going to create that same distance all the way around for you. And that might be helpful, okay, just to get it more uniform. So I'm just going to kind of go around making little marks so I can roughly get what I want to be for my flare. All right. Now you can also decide, do you want to do a foot? Okay, remember, if you're going to have something wide, keep your foot out wide. If it's narrow, it's just going to be floppy. okay? So we don't want that. So just going around, getting that cut. Remember, you are not going to want to take these off the bowl, your mold, okay, until these are leather hard. If it's too soft, that flare is just going to flop over. So on a different video, we'll talk about the decorating method, which is going to be slip trimmed, okay? And that we really haven't done much in A, if at all. So we're going to make sure. So you can see I'm just kind of going around, cutting. I kind of marked it, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You decide what you want. I know somewhere along here I didn't cut very good. Whoops, all right. But you can get the idea, all right? So on these edges that are going around, don't forget those are kind of rough. So you want that sponge or just water on your fingers and go around and smooth that out, all right? So if you can work on a board, piece of material, cardboard, anything like that, that is going to help it from sticking too much, okay? So again, getting that all smoothed out, I'm going to do a foot. So I'm going to use my scraps here, kind of wedge it up a little bit so it's a better mass. And you can do different things. Remember, it could be a big coil that'll go around the bottom, score slip meld it down. You could do chunks, okay? It could be little balls. You decide. But make sure proportionally it's going to look good, okay? So I'm going to kind of create a coil. I decided earlier what I would do. So I'm going to try to get this as even as I can. And I'm going to chunk that up then as even as I can be. So you can decide a number that you want to use. That's going to be up to you. You just got to make sure it's going to be balanced, okay? So now that I got my coil fairly even throughout, I am going to just cut off the ends because those are never quite the same. And then I decided I'm going to go with 5. I got a fairly wide one here, so I want to make sure it's going to be out wide enough and sturdy enough for it, okay? So I'm just going to mark a little bit here to see if I can get these about even. I need to work on my evenness. If you have a ruler, you could certainly use that, and that will help you out as well. Get it more evenly spaced, better than my guessing. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through, chunk these. And with some of this, it's got to set up a little bit. So I'm just going to smooth out those edges. And when I place them, I want to check before I put them down that my spacing is going to be even, okay? So you might have to play with them a little bit, but this is why you do it now before you attach them, all right? That one could go a little bit more. All right, and then of course, just kind of score slipping and melding where those are gonna be, okay? I'm gonna use that fork and I can use that end of it and get that melded in underneath, okay? So doing that all the way around. Now, if you haven't made a good batch of slip yet, you're going to want to do that because, again, your decorating technique is going to be slip trailing, and you are going to need a fair amount of that. And hopefully you can find something like a plastic bag. You could even just use one of these other store type bags. Otherwise, something like a Ziploc bag, okay, will work out good. Now that I've kind of got them spaced, okay, I'm going to sit and do this. That way I'm in your view a little better. So notice that each one I'm melding. Remember, melding is just pushing a little bit of the one clay into the other. So it's for sure going to stay good, okay? A little bit of slip if it's kind of dry. And meld. If you have a small paintbrush, That's helpful to use. A little bit of water, and you can get down in those little spaces to smooth out. Okay. You can use the sponge corners. That's why we always want a small piece, and work those out as well. So kind of going around, smooth out. Still a little wiggly yet. All right. And then I decided I'm going to do also kind of just a little squish. It's moving on me. Just to give it a little kind of other look to it from the outside, okay? May not look like much, but these will also be easy for me to level out if I need to later. So I will kind of raise this up and let you see where we're at with it so far, okay? So you can see we've got a foot. Ooh, it's sliding away from me, okay? And this, of course, is the big old flare, okay? So it's still really floppy. So as you can see, this is gonna have to set up before it can be taken off of the mold, okay? So what you can do is hopefully get this set out somewhere, kind of cover it loosely with plastic so it can get some air to it depending where you're at. In the basement here, it's kind of more of a damp basement, so I can leave it loose. If you're upstairs where you have heat still, it's going to be a drier air, and there you're going to want to cover it a little better. Remember, if it dries on here, it is going to crack, and you don't want it to fall apart on you, okay? So get that however your temperature is, and then we'll revisit this in a little bit of time in a new video showing you then how you take it off, smoothing it out, and how we're going to add the slip trailing decoration. All right, so get to work, have fun.